Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the League of Europe Formula 1 YouTube channel for round 14 of the Division 3 season. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Carmentalist. I'll be taking you through Division 3 proceedings as always, and as always, joining me in the commentary box once again is IRO Dylan. Dylan, how are you this evening?
I've had better days, to be honest. I've had better days. I despise this track, so personally, from my own race, I'm not expecting great things, but I am expecting great things from this D3 grid today.
Yeah, fingers crossed we get a good race today. We've had great races throughout the entire Division 3 season, and it's crazy to think that after this round we've only got 4 rounds to go. I said it at the end of the stream last week that it feels like we were talking about getting to the midpoint of the season for so long, and then we've just flown through it in the past few weeks. It's crazy to think that, and that we had a break week and all of that as well. So it's really flown by. We're just going to run you through the championship order then coming into round 14 of the season, obviously here at Japan today, as you can see. Championship leader is still Yorno, but obviously Yorno had a bit of a disaster last time out in Singapore. Only scored 2 points, one of his worst point scoring finishes of the season, so he had a really torrid time last time out. J. Cole didn't fare. He had a podium in the end to J. Cole, but his race was a little bit truncated after a number of safety cars in that race. He came in with 3rd place though, and he is now, I believe, 21 points off the championship lead, so he is closing back in once again. Caesar's 3rd in the standings on 117, so Caesar's really built up quite a bit of momentum recently, and he's starting to close back in on J. Cole especially, so look out for him in the latter stages of the season. B. Morgan's now up to P4 ahead of Old School in P5. Old School's really not had the rub of the green recently. B. Morgan picked up his second podium of the season last time out, his second place finish of the season. Old School only scored 4 points. TDB DNF last time out after what looked like could have been a really good race for TDB, and it all fell apart with a number of incidents that weren't his fault. He's down to 6th in the standings. Total P's utter domination last time out picks up his second win of the season, 7th place. White Hawaiian Eat the 2 Ferraris 8th and 9th, and XL Bree rounds off the top 10 in points with one of his second DNF of the season, his first DNF since the first round of the season. So it's fair to say that Singapore last time out was a little bit of a crazy race, but in the end, P's the 2 races he's recently taken part in. He obviously didn't take part in the Monza race, but Belgium and Singapore are the last 2 races he took part in, and both of those races he dominated from start to finish.
Yeah, it's gonna be really exciting to see how his race is gonna pan out this week. He's been, of course, having a little bit up and down season. He's either wins the race or on the podium, or he DNFs the race. So let's see what he can do today. I'm very excited to see what TDB can do, especially after last week's disappointment. See if he can bounce back to maybe get a good finishing result here.
Yeah, I have to wait and see whether he can bounce back. Like you say, we've got a couple new drivers here tonight, a couple new full-time drivers. So Major Falcon, you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, he's replacing Savage in the Red Bull for the rest of the season. And Break FN is in the Williams, replacing J-Luke for the rest of the season. Both of those drivers have gone down to a reserve position. So we've got 2 new drivers tonight, and I've not personally ever seen these 2 drivers. I don't know if you have, Dylan, if you've ever seen these guys race before. But that throws a whole new dynamic into the mix, because we don't know how fast these guys are going to be, and they could be a real threat in this race, couldn't they?
Yeah, that definitely could be the case, and especially on a track like Suzuka, where you have a lot of drivers who really love the track, and you have a lot of drivers who despise it, like myself. And I mean, I think this is one of your favorite tracks of the calendar, I believe. So it's going to be very interesting to see how drivers in the D3 grid can cope around this track and see who's going to win this race and get the podiums.
Yeah, this is very similar to Singapore in the way that this is very much a driver's track, and like you say, it's a pretty Marmite track, as I say quite often or not. We either love it or hate this track. There's not really an indifference with this one. On board with Chill. Chill's the first person out onto the track, and if I remember correctly, Chill is one of these people that has the same stance as you. He does not enjoy driving this track at all, by the looks of things, so I have to wait and see what he can put out tonight. Chill's season obviously joined into D3 a little bit later. He got moved down from Division 2. Was probably hoping for a better season. It's really not gone Chill's way, unfortunately. He's not really had any really good possibilities of getting on the podium, and Chill obviously coming into a track that he doesn't like, that's obviously going to really hinder his confidence. And for Chill, only on 14 points now, he's not scored any higher than 4 points in a single round this season. Do you see him scoring any more today?
I mean, around a track like Suzuka, it's always difficult to actually finish the race. I think we've seen a lot of DNFs last season in D3 as well. I think it was wet at that time, but it's always difficult to get a good qualifying lap and then to finish the race. And just a little mistake, just one wheel on the grass, and your car is gone and off into the wall. So it's going to be very tricky for drivers around here. And I'm just excited to see what's going to happen. I'm not quite sure what the top three is going to be for qualifying. What is your prediction?
I haven't got the foggiest of ideas, if I'm honest, about what pace is going to be. I do think that if we're going off the rest of the season so far, then you've got to say that the likes of J. Cole and Old School will probably be up there in qualifying. We'll have to wait and see, though, how it pans out. We'll go on board with Chill then for the first lap around Japan. Coming into turn 1, called turn 1. Absolutely brilliant. The first turn, I think it's called, actually. Through turn 2, a little bit cambered as well. And now into this X session, and already Chill all over the road coming out of turn 2, sliding onto the grass, and now through 3 and 4, then into turn 5 and turn 6. It gets slower and slower, this section of the S's does, and now into Dunlop curve. Do not touch this curb on the inside. So easy to spin your car out. It's pretty much similar to the death curb you find in Bahrain. Coming through the Degeners now. First one a lot faster than the second one heavily cambered, so you can carry a little bit more speed in there than you would first think. And now into the kink right before the hairpin. Again a cambered corner, a lot of cambered corners on this track, so you can carry quite a bit of speed, but the traction coming out of this corner really, really poor. Nice and neat though there from Chill coming out of there, now through 200R. Not really a corner in modern Formula 1 cars, you just breeze through it. It's more of a straight line towards Spoon. Another double apex corner, faster in the first part, a lot longer the second part of Spoon. Don't touch the curb on the inside again, can unsettle the car. Run it out a little bit wide, and now down this back straight, a little bit bumpy on the left hand side, but Chill goes to the left hand side for the shortest run to 130R, an iconic corner in Formula 1, but unfortunately in Formula 1 cars nowadays, easy flat, even in race conditions. Takes it right to the right hand side, and now into the Casio triangle for turns 16, 17 and 18 to finish off the lap. Hops over the curb nicely, and then this downhill to run to the line. No bump in this game, so it's a lot easier on traction. And across the line, Chill, obviously with a big mistake coming out of turn 2, a 27.8, his first time in the session, immediately beaten by TDB, who does a 26.2, which is actually fairly competitive for a banker lap. He's gone right to the front. Peter Dornball as well, who's been on a real run of form recently, second place in the Alpha Tower on a 26.7, and Yorno's now gone to the front on a 26.1 by a tenth of a second, so he's jumped right to the front of the field. Look out for him later on, obviously our championship leader, but that is a great start to the season, the session for Yorno. And meanwhile, while all that happened, Old School, I think I cursed him because he's crashed coming out of Spoon and is out of the session.
That is very unfortunate, but great laps already from TDB and Yorno. That those are extremely fast times, especially for a banker this early in the session. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can improve on this time, and if we're going to see 25 this qualifying. It's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, wait and see if that does happen. J. Coles did a 26.8 tyres. That's a very competitive time on the mediums around this track. You would expect the medium and the soft delta to be quite high here because of how many corners there are in quick succession. Bree's gone fourth in the Renault, a 26.5. He's been steadily improving his pace throughout the season, so he's looking to get more and more competitive as it goes on. Obviously in the bottom end of the top 10 in the championship standings, battling with Miami, and is directly ahead of Miami by a place in the proceedings at the moment, so that's good for him in his battle. Coming then to the end of the first runs in qualifying, we've only had 12 people put a lap in. Stumpy damaged his front wing on his lap. Caesar's on a lap at the moment, but has already invalidated through turns 1 and 2, so he's not going to be setting a lap time this time around, and he's on the mediums once again. Major Falcon and Eduk haven't left the pit lane, and JS out at the moment. So running order at the moment, Yorno on pole position, and we've seen it a lot this season where Yorno either has a really, really strong qualifying and he qualifies right at the front, or it takes him 2 or 3 attempts to actually get a run in. And usually the events where he gets that banker in and gets onto pole position fairly early on, he goes on to really dominate the races. So maybe that's a bit of an omen for tonight's race.
Yeah, that's definitely something that could happen this race, and I've seen Jacob put in a 26.8 on the medium tires, so that is a pretty decent time, I believe, for the medium tires. So I expect when he goes onto the soft tires, he'll probably get around Yorno's and TDB's lap time coming to the end of the session, and he goes into the pits now. And yeah, B. Morgan and Bree really close together for P3 and 4, and there are a lot of fast bankers this early in the session. Quite surprising, and I'm positively surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, positive surprise, like you say. It's great to see that there's a lot of people so close in the field, and like you say, for a track that is so focused on the driver and how the driver feels, driver feeling around this track is so important. To see that many people so close at the front is great to see. JSD then on a lap coming out of Spoon. He had a torrid race last time out in Singapore, unfortunately. He's another one, just like Chill, that got moved down from Division 2 into Division 3, and since he's moved down, it's not really worked out for him so far, but wait and see if he can turn things around in the last part of the season. He's coming up to the Casio Triangle now. He's already backed off of his lap, though, so he's obviously he going for another run on these same set of tyres, or he's going to dive straight into the pit lane? We'll wait and see. He's going to keep going for another run, but he is running in none ERS on my side of things, and it is a 30.5 in his first lap in the session. So he's going again on the same set of soft compound tyres, and going again on the same set of softs isn't too bad around this track, but you kind of want as much life in these tyres as possible, really, don't you, for the race, because otherwise your strategy can get a little bit compromised.
Yeah, ideally you want to see your personal best lap time at the end of the session, so you don't have that extra in lap where your tires get a little bit of wear. But yeah, the fresher tires is always better, and I think personally I struggle a lot with tire temperature around here. So lower tire wear really is the way to go for the race, and yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. I think White Wise had an amazing lap time on the. No, never mind. He's going out on the mediums. I thought he set a lap time on the mediums for the 26.7, but that was on the soft tires. So never mind. But yeah, it's all really closing up at the front of the field.
Yeah, it really is. Caesar on another lap on the mediums, but he's invalidated again, so he's not going to be setting a time. And that's a bit odd as well that White Wise gone out on another set of medium tyres, considering he's already done a lap on the softs. You would expect to find it a little bit difficult to improve on that soft lap time on a set of mediums, especially around this track. JSD continuing on his lap, 2.8 seconds up, as you would expect. So this is going to be his first proper run in qualifying. Stays well away from the curb and actually dives straight into the pit lane. So I eat my words a little bit there. He didn't actually continue with that lap. The lap looked like it might have been a high 26, so that probably would have put him around Major Falcon and J. Cole. Falcon's just crossed the line actually and gone into P9 on a 26.9. Puts him ahead of Jonas at the moment, who's currently running in 10th place. He's a reserve driver. He's in the Haas today. So look out for him in this one and see what he can do throughout this session. Chill's on another lap as well in the racing point, but he's invalidated in the first sector, so he won't be improving on 11th place for the time being. Newcomers though at the moment, Major Falcon P9 and Break FN on an out lap at the moment, currently P13. Obviously they're only bankers at the moment, but they seem to have settled in quite nicely.
Yeah, they're pretty decent times to be honest, and especially throughout this session where drivers will gain their confidence and gain speed. I'll expect them to improve and set a faster lap time, probably even get well into the top 6, because I think Major Falcon has set a decent banker, and of course you can only improve on it throughout the session. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these newcomers cope with the D3 qualifying pressure, basically, because qualifying is so important around this track, and we've seen probably the entire D3 season that anything can happen, even at the starting at the front. But when you start at the front, it's the chances of surviving the race are a lot higher compared to the midfield.
Yeah, Edek meanwhile crosses the line in the Ferrari, does a 26.772. Peters just jumped in front of him on his second lap in the AlphaTauri on a 26.6, so he's put himself back inside the top 5. We've got one of the McLarens I think has just crossed the line, that was Yorno, but he didn't improve on his first lap, so he stays on provisional pole, but not improving the gap out front. TDB's on a lap, he's just started a lap actually in the Williams. We're going to go back towards one of the Red Bulls that's on track. I think that might be Miami coming through. No, that's actually, sorry, that's Major Falcon coming into the pit lane, I believe. Miami's just coming up towards Spoon, so we're looking towards the racing point of, that will be J. Cole, he's on an out lap as well, so it will be Break FN, it will be the next person to finish a lap, and he's 8/10 of a second up on his personal best at the moment, so this could put him right in the thick of the action if he nails this final sector. Keeps it right to the right hand side, coming down towards the line, and it's a 26.9 for Break FN, so he finds 1.2 seconds on his first lap, so really found a lot of time and confidence, puts him directly behind fellow rookie Major Falcon as well. So 26.9, a good lap time for Break FN, and if you can imagine if he found 1.2 seconds on that first one, you can imagine that there's still a lot more pace in that.
Yeah, definitely, and I think P11 might be a really good place to start this race. Of course, you can go on the medium tires, and the mediums are a way better race tire than the softs. I think within 3 or 4 laps, the mediums are already faster than the soft tires, but of course it's really difficult to overtake, and especially with DRS change being a major thing in this game, could be a struggle to overtake on the medium tires, but starting on the mediums is a really good shout around here.
You have to wait and see. Oh my word, TDB just caught him there coming out of the final chicane. He got on that curb coming down towards the line, and he just lost the car, nearly drove it directly into the pit wall. Just about got away with it, but wasn't able to improve on his time because of it. Miami's jumped up into P3 on a 26.3, so that's a good lap from him up into 3rd place. I think his best qualifying of the season, I think, is the 3rd place. So I have to wait and see if he can better that. B. Morgan's not improved on his P4 time. Breeze on another lap in the Renault, so we'll wait and see what he can do. I just read in the comment section as well, Peter put a comment in right at the start of the qualifying session saying he practiced for Russia and not for Japan. So the fact that he's up in P6 at a track he's not practiced at is is very, very good. So you can imagine that he'll find more and more pace as the session goes on. And I've just seen a one in there as well from Old School as well to say that he's just doing a last to first challenge. So we'll wait and see how he does with that. Unfortunately for Old School, he's tried a couple of last to first challenges the last few rounds and it's not quite gone his way. So I'll have to wait and see if it pays off for him this time round. Let's see who else is on laps at the moment. That'll be Racing Point coming to the line. That's J. Cole. No, it's not J. Cole, it's Chill on an out lap. Chill's out on the mediums now, though, as well. So we saw YY do this, and it didn't work. And Chill's now gone out on the medium tyres as well. So a little bit bizarre to see people going out on a set of mediums this late in the session.
Yeah, it's really surprising, but I think these drivers want to start the race on the medium tyres because they don't believe that, oh, it's Chill again in turn 2 losing the traction. He's not confident in turn 2 on traction and really costs him a lot of time. But I think a lot of drivers want to start on the medium tires because they are a really good race tire, and softs are, yeah, I don't think the softs are really good around here, and I personally don't trust the soft tires because they can go any second basically. But it's just so interesting to see all these different strategies and different tactics. I saw J. Cole he was 5/10 up, I believe, on his medium lap time from on the softs, and he dived into the pit at the end of his lap without invalidating. So I don't know if he's trying to qualify P11 or somewhere like that, but it's very interesting to see him aboard his lap while he was 5/10 up.
Yeah, and obviously as good as it would be to start on the medium tyres, being behind 10 soft runners at the start of the race could really hinder your strategy. So starting on the medium tyres, you kind of really want to be somewhere in the mid part of the top 10 to really make it work. And at the moment, no one is near close to doing that unless someone sets an absolutely stonking lap on a set of medium tyres towards the end of the session. We'll have to wait and see. But just further down the field as well, Caesar continues to not be able to set a valid lap time. He's on his second lap on this set of soft compound tyres. He's only done a 35.5 so far. So he's coming through the second sector now, crosses the second sector point on a 9.8. Looking pretty fast, actually, this lap from Caesar. So this could put him right towards the front of the field if he's able to nail this final sector. He goes through the Casio Triangle, takes the curb nicely. Second part of the curb as well is nice as well. Through the final corner, so this could put him right to the front. Can Caesar jump all the way to the front of the field? He can, and he's the first one in the 1 minute 25. So 25.9 goes 0.2 of a second clear at the front of the field. But crucially, that's on his second lap on that set of tyres. So he's got to get back to the pit lane as quickly as possible and put a fresh set of tyres on. He'll be very close to making that work. He'll probably be pushing quite hard on this in lap. But Caesar, he's struggled for quali pace really all season long, and that is by far the best quali performance we've seen from him.
That is a really good qualifying lap, but as you said, 2 laps on these soft tires, that is not ideal, and he might struggle come race time, and we completely missed it. Bree with a 26.2 as well in P3,
yeah.
Really good lap from him, and Bree is usually not known for his insane qualifying pace, so seeing him up there is really surprising, and that bodes some great things for the race.
Yeah, it really does. We'll have to wait and see if he can continue this in the race conditions. Like you say, yeah, I would like to know what Bree's actual best qualifying of the season is. I don't think he's actually qualified inside the top 5 yet this season. He's, like you say, his quali pace isn't necessarily his strong suit. He's very consistent and very good at getting to the ends of races, and that's why he always picks up points. But P3 in qualifying would be great for him, and it will help Renault as well win the Constructors, obviously with Old School qualifying in last place at the moment. Stumpy, the only one then that hasn't set a lap time. JSD's lap time and Chill's lap time, if you're honest as well, not really representative of their true pace, so they'll have to wait and see if they can get their final run to work perfectly for them. But as you can see from when we were on board Chill earlier on, he's really struggling to get the power down, and JSD can't seem to get a valid lap in, and neither can Stumpy at the moment either. So these 3 drivers seemingly the ones that don't have a good feeling around this track.
I mean, you said the same thing about Caesar, and he just put the car in provisional pole, so anything can happen around here. And the final runners are coming out now just to set the final lap time, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see. I think Peter's on the lap right now as he goes through the S curves, and it's just so close between quali, and I think anything can happen, and you just have to perfect your lap time to get a good qualifying position around here.
Yeah, just going to ride with Stumpy quickly though. He's just started his second lap on the same set of tyres, and he's going to come out right in the thick of a load of traffic coming out the pits. He's just avoided the McLaren that came out, but everyone has left it right to the last moment. This is almost Monza real life kind of style, because everyone's left with about 2 minutes to go, and now they're all going to have to find their own space on the track, and they're all in the S's section at the moment. One of the Mercedes cars I think has actually spun through the S's because they were so close to the cars in front, so that's going to be interesting. As Stumpy loses the car through Dunlop, so easy to do, but he spins the car and puts the car on the inside wall coming out the corner, so he's not going to be saving a time in the session. Unfortunately, Stumpy will qualify down in 17th place. Let's go back with Peter. 2/10 up in the first sector on his personal best, so this is a good start to the lap. How's his second sector time looking? It was a 9.8 at the end of the second sector for Caesar. Coming to it, it's a 10 flat, so it's not quite as fast as Caesar at this point, but this could put him right in that battle for the front row. Where can he put that AlphaTauri? One AlphaTauri on pole at the moment. Can Peter make it an AlphaTauri front row lockout? Nice through the final chicane. Coming through the final corner as well, keeps it right to the right hand side. For a man that's not practiced, he's done a very good job. He improves on his time by nearly 3/10 of a second, but it only puts him P6 in the end. He only jumps ahead of B Morgan, and he's 3,000ths of a second slower than Miami, and once again qualifying in D3 is so close.
It's incredibly close, but that's a really good lap time for Peter for basically doing zero practice. So you should be proud of that lap time. And it's, if he just found it 1,000 or 3,000ths, then he would have been P5, and that would have been incredible. But still a decent lap time, and a lot of drivers are starting and finishing their lap times now. I think Morgan, sorry, not B Morgan.
Goes on a really good lap, a 9.8 at the end of the second sector. This could put him on pole position if he nails this final corner. Comes through the chicane now, keeps it on the track this time, doesn't dive into the pit lane, so this is going to be his final run in qualifying. Where does he go? He just misses out on pole position in the end of 26 flat, less than 1/10 of a second off pole position, but he goes crucially ahead of his championship rival Jorno. Jorno's just started his final run, so he's going to have to try and work to get back ahead of J. Cole. Sees across the line, didn't improve on his time in the end, stays in provisional pole position, but he couldn't go any faster unfortunately, so he will start this race on 2 lap older soft tyres. Let's look throughout the field as well. Who else has come to is now coming round to the end of the lap. Eduk's on a lap. He's 5/10 up in the middle sector. We saw this in Singapore. He gained massively at the end of the session, and he goes P3 once again. Eduk with a massive improvement on his final run. Goes up into 3rd place. YHYY now coming through that final sector. He's only slightly up on his time, but can he get ahead of maybe the likes of B Morgan? Crosses the line, and he does go ahead of B Morgan on a 26.4. Still B Morgan, though, is on a lap at the moment. He's coming through the final chicane. One of the Mercedes, Luke, has spun in the final chicane. B Morgan's dived into the pit lane. He's not going to improve. There's a wheel actually rolling its way down the pit lane, so Luke's obviously hit the pit wall somewhere. We've got one of the Red Bulls coming to the line. That's Major Falcon. He goes into the top 10 on a 26.4. Good debut from him. Good lap from him as well, so he goes ahead of B Morgan, who wasn't able to set a time. Unfortunately, Chills crashed in the final corner as well, so his session goes from bad to worse. Bree now comes through the final corner. Where does he go? He goes 3rd, so another improvement for Bree. He goes just behind his XL teammate. Jorno beats him, but crucially Jorno can't get ahead of J. Cole, so Jorno only improved on his first run in qualifying by 0.04 of a second. There wasn't a lot of pace left in his car. Only other person on the lap is Tejonis, I believe. He's currently down in 14th, and he's retired from the session, so he's not going to be improving on his time. That is quali over, and Caesar from nowhere at the start of the session takes home his first pole of the season.
That is a great lap, and it was extremely close. A lot of drivers improving in the latter stage of qualifying, and J. Cole, of course, putting a great lap time to put his car in 2nd place and crucially ahead of Jorno. And it's really close between the top 5 for qualifying.
Well, the top 11 in qualifying is separated by just over half a second at a track like this. That's incredible to see. Caesar then on pole position. Saw a comment in the stream from him as well. He missed out on starting his final run by 2 seconds. That's how close he was to getting the final run in. Didn't quite work. J. Cole ahead of Jorno, 2 championship rivals, 2nd and 3rd. Bree with his best quality of the season in 4th ahead of Eduk 5th, TDB 6th, Miami, Peter, YHYY, Major Falcon rounds off the top 10 on debut. B Morgan only 11th. Luke, Break FN, Tejonis, Chill, JSD, Stumpy and Old School are your 18 qualifiers. Stumpy and Old School not able to set a lap time in qualifying, so a bit of a truncated with it's the usual suspects really at the front of the field, but some really fast drivers a little bit out of position. Noticeably, obviously Old School not setting a time, but as well as that, Chill right down at the back of the field, and B Morgan not able to qualify inside the top 10.
That is surprising to see B Morgan not qualify inside the top 10, but he is starting P11, and I think I've said this multiple times now during qualifying, but starting P11, going onto the medium tires and probably go onto the softs at the end of the race is a really, really powerful strategy. Yeah. And if you keep it consistent, keep the car on track, you can definitely get a great finishing result with that strategy.
Yeah, and we've seen him probably, I think, like 3 of the last 4 races, a late safety car come out. It obviously, an early safety car came out, unfortunately, in Singapore, but that massively helped Total P's strategy. He was obviously running on that medium, that alternate strategy, running on the mediums, and he obviously decided not to pit the first safety car and basically won him the race. It was a great strategy. We had late safety cars as well in the Belgian race when it was in the wet conditions, so we've had a lot of that this season, and it's fair to say that in Division 3, safety cars do tend to be a little bit more common than maybe other divisions as well. So I'll have to wait and see. But that's the good thing about being on the alternate strategy as well, isn't it? Is that late safety cars are all too common and they can really change your race.
They can definitely make your race if a late safety car comes out, because then you'll probably just keep your track position, you'll stay in first, and you'll have those fresh soft tires at the end of the race. So late safety cars for the medium run is definitely something they would want to see.
Yeah, I mean, cast your mind back to the Budapest race. YHYY won the race because of a late safety car. Obviously held the place on track because of, well, good pace that he had, but he did the alternate strategy. Started, I think, 13th and last on the grid that day. We didn't have many drivers in Budapest, but he started last on the grid that day, went for the alternate strategy, and then pitted when the safety car came out, and it gave him, at the end of the day, the race victory at a track that you can't overtake at. So that was a brilliant drive from YHYY, and we could see the same again today. Looking at the people then who's starting on the medium tyres, B Morgan in 11th, Break FN in 13th, Chill, JSD, Stumpy and Old School all on the medium tyres, Luke in 12th and Sir Jonas in 14th, starting on the softs. So they're obviously looking to make places early on, and maybe because of the nature of the track is quite narrow, and obviously the early sector of the lap is very technical, could be common for people to pick up front wing damage here, so maybe they don't want to run the risk of picking up front wing damage while they're on the medium tyres.
Yeah, or if an early safety car comes out, they can go onto the hard tyres and make it to the end of the race, and I think just cover that off, because early safety cars are probably a lot, they're really common in D3, so it's I think they're just trying to not be compromised by a early safety car.
Yeah, so let's wait and see how that one pans out for them. They'll obviously have fresher softs than the drivers in front of him, so let's wait and see. If they did qualify out of position, then maybe they're trying to work their way forwards a little bit more in this race. Obviously, Luke crashed at the end of qualifying, and Jonas couldn't get a clean lap in at the end because of it. So we'll have to wait and see how they do. So it's Caesar on pole position, obviously on older, softer compound tyres than everyone inside the top 10. How do you see this race playing out? Who do you think is going to be on the podium?
To be honest, I can see a lot of combinations. I can see J. Cole, Yorno, TDB, J. Cole, Yorno, Educ, J. Cole, Yorno, Bree. Anything can happen. And
yeah,
I'm going to say J. Cole's going to win this race, Yorno second, and I'm going to say B. Morgan in third with his alternate strategy.
I'm going to agree with you with the first two for J. Cole and Yorno. I think they could come home 1-2 here. Third place, I'm going to go for Miami. I think Miami showed pretty good quali pace, and we know that in the past Miami's quali pace is not usually as good as his race pace. We'll have to wait and see how he does in the Red Bull qualified 7th. But here we go then, everyone lining up on the grid. We just wait for Stumpy and Old School to line up in the final slots on the grid at the back of the field. Just lined up as of now. So here we go then for the start of the Japanese Grand Prix, round 14 of the LOE Season Division 3. 27 laps ahead of us. Who's going to get the best start off the front of the grid? Is it Caesar? Is it J. Cole? Lights are out and away they go, and it looks a fairly even start. J. Cole's second phase though looks pretty strong. He's got down the inside, he's on the overtake, he's going down the inside. Peter in the background's had an incredible start in the second AlphaTauri. Caesar though is going to make the move round the outside. He's just going to hold on to the lead with the outside line into turn 1. J. Cole holds on to second. Educ's up to third. He's had a great start. Yorno a little bit wide out of fourth. TDP's in fifth. Miami sixth. Breeze had an atrocious start from third on the grid, from fourth on the grid. He's down to seventh. He's under that from Peter, who wasn't able to make the most of that 3-wide moment into turn 1. YHYY and Major Falcon round off the top 10. Luke's already got ahead of B Morgan, and Jonas has already got ahead of Break FN. So those top tire runners on the move. Here comes White down the inside of Peter at the first Tegner, but not a lot of room, and it's not an overtaking spot, so he backs out of it. Caesar then nearly lost the lead at the first corner, held on to it, keeps the lead then the middle part of the lap. J. Cole holds second. Educ the first one with the best start at the front of the field, up to third place, and crucially ahead of Yorno. Great for J. Cole's championship hopes if Yorno gets stuck behind Educ at the start of this one, but around Japan, an incredibly clean start.
Yeah, no one spun, no one with ring damage, I believe, so that's a really clean start. And Break FN and Chill fighting for position through Spoon. I think Chill just went a little bit wide through Spoon, and Break FN now with a switchback in Spoon up the inside, and they're going together on the straight and through 130R. They're both on the overtake, and I think Chill's just come out ahead of that going into 130R, and Break FN has to slot in behind, unfortunately. But it's really close, and Caesar with a really good start. It's almost a second clear already of J. Cole ahead.
Yeah, looking very strong in these conditions, trying to pull away, break DRS. There is only one DRS over this track, but it's still incredibly powerful because you're nearly flat from the exit spoon all the way to the first corner. The only thing between is a braking zone, as Stumpy has spun at the final chicane. I wonder if Stumpy's picked up damage. He has. He's picked up a lot of front wing damage, so he's the only one that's been involved in some sort of incident on the first lap, unfortunately. So it is Caesar that still leads, and ahead of J. Cole second, Eduk third. There is a little bit of a queue starting to form behind J. Cole, behind Eduk actually. J. Cole's becoming a little bit distant from Eduk. Eduk seems to be the one that's struggling, as Stumpy's unfortunately left the session, so fingers crossed he can get back in. Chill gets a move done on to Jonas, it looks like, further down the field. So Jonas on those soft tyres, not able to make the moves like Luke has. Luke's worked his way past B. Morgan and up into 11th and is on the back of Major Falcon for 10th. But to Jonas, unfortunately, in the second Haas car, not able to move forwards on these soft tyres.
Yeah, that's really surprising because other soft runners have, like Luke, have had an incredible start, and B. Morgan has lost, unfortunately, a little bit of time and a position to Luke, and now he's not really in a prime position because he's still sticking with the train, but he lost that track. Of course, track position of those medium tyres is really important. Chill and Jonas are battling really hard, and then Jonas is on the overtake trying to make a move up the inside of Chill through 130R, but he's lost it into the slipstream, really close to the back of Chill. Goes on to the overtake again, tries to go around the outside into the chicane, and Chill breaks it too late. Jonas as well, a little bit of wheel banging, but Jonas gets out ahead, and now this allows Break and Fent to maybe have a look up at the inside of Chill to turn 1, but Chill does get a decent exit, and Jonas made that move stick on Chill on those soft tyres. Really crucial move for him.
Crucial move for Jonas, but this has allowed the drivers in front to break away. All the medium runners, apart from B. Morgan at the moment, kind of struggling for pace. It's not made any ground at the start of this one, neither is JSD. Break FN's lost places. Chill's made ground, but only medium runners. B. Morgan is the only medium runner at the moment that is able to hold pace with the soft runners, which is a little bit bizarre, considering they're all in a queue. Will be massively affected by dirty air. No one is all the way down. 12th is out of DRS range. The only one that's close to being out of DRS range is J. Cole against Caesar for the race lead, but he's just about held it, I believe, of this lap. Obviously, for the first time at the end of this lap when they come through the detection point just before the start of Castillo Triangle, so wait and see if Caesar can break it. But apart from that, everyone at the moment seems incredibly evenly matched, so we'll have to wait and see who's going to be the first to bolt into the pit lane or who's going to be the first to try and make a move. You would say, though, at this point in the race, Yorno's probably the one that's going to be making the moves first.
Yeah, especially I expect to see him probably go in lap 7 or 6 maybe during this race to try the undercut and get that track position over Eduk and maybe even J. Cole ahead. And it's going to be a crucial couple of laps these next few laps, because the soft tyres might actually overheat, and Caesar has broken the DRS to J. Cole, so that's really crucial for him in his race, and he's showing incredible pace on those soft tyres. Yorno with the fastest lap, and that's immediately broken by Jonas with a 29.8, really fast lap time for him. And he's at the back of the field, P13, setting an incredible lap time. Really surprising to see that.
Just goes to show that dirty air, the pace of the field isn't that fast, because everyone is all within DRS range. Jonas's lap was actually so good that look at the gap he's pulled on Chill in a lap. It's 2 seconds, and he's already back within DRS range of his teammates. So it just goes to show that the clean air around this track really helps. Jonas did use a lot of ERS on the lap, it seems. He's down to 10%.
Oh, Yorno made a mistake. Yorno made a mistake to the Degna 2, and TDB just got ahead of him. That is crucial. So I just interrupt you there, but that was very crucial. He went in a little bit deep, and TDB just swooped in and took the position, and he says thank you to Yorno, and that is a crucial move from TDB to get ahead of him.
Wow, we don't see that very often from Yorno. Yorno's been incredibly consistent all season long, but my word, first mistake that's really cost him a place we've seen in a long time. Down to 5th then, from 3rd on the grid. This has not been the start to the race that he needed. Breaker Fence picked up his first time penalty of the race, coming through Spoon, unfortunately. And still those medium runners at the back of the field don't have the pace. They're just falling away from this queue of cars. At the moment, Chill leads that group of medium drivers. None of them really able to make pace. So we'll have to wait and see how their strategy continues to play out in this race. Does anyone drive into the pit lane at the end of lap 4? No one is into the pits as of yet. Everyone continuing on for the time being. We'll have to wait and see how this one pans out. This will be probably the start of the pit window if you want to go onto the hard compound tyres. You need to go to about lap 10 or 11 if you want to pit and put the mediums on. And at the moment, because of the pace that people are running on the softs, you would imagine that they're not exactly burning these tyres out. So they could maybe extend and put the mediums on, which for someone maybe a little bit further down the field, maybe the likes of Tejonis or Luke or Major Falcon, might be worth trying something different.
Yeah, that definitely could be worth trying because with those medium tires at the end of the race, they will have a lot better grip. And Caesar picks up a time penalty, and I think Caesar, with his 2-lap older soft tires, as he did 2 laps on those tires in qualifying, looking like he's struggling a little bit, and Jayco's creeping in ever so slightly towards the back of him.
Yeah, starting to affect him now. So you would imagine that Jayco will start to have the same effect maybe in the next lap or so. Eduk Rest Manager J. Cole, so he's also starting to struggle on these tyres. So TDB now in the prime position to get back into a podium position. He started this race in 6th. The TDB, just like Eduk, have both had really good starts to this race. TDB working his way forwards then from 6th to 4th, now staring at the back of a podium, trying to get back on the podium after a torrid run last time out in Singapore. We'll have to wait and see how this one pans out. There's a little bit of a gap back now to Miami as well. He's under pressure from Bree, so Bree trying to make up for that poor start. Qualified for down to 7th on the opening lap, trying to work his way down the inside of Miami at the chicane, but he's not close enough to make the move stick, but he could get the move done on DRS. Now, does anyone come into the pits? None of our leaders are into the pit lane as of yet. Everyone has stayed out for the time being, so no one's committing to an early pit stop for the hard compound tyres. They don't want to do it. It's lap 6 now, everyone for the time being. J. Cole continues to close in on our race leader, but he's just not close enough to make a move stick. TDB, though, round the outside of turn 3 is going to get the move done on Eduk. Eduk got a poor run out of turn 2, and TDB capitalised on it perfectly. Round the outside of the first corner of the S is up into 3rd place. Great move from the Williams driver.
That was a brilliant move. Eduk defended the inside through turn 1, and TDB got forced off a little bit wide, but being forced off wide, that gave him an incredible run to turn 2 and eventually made him go around the outside of turn 2. That's an incredible move from TDB to get into the podium position, and now he's closing into the back of Jayco. I think Caesar might be holding up Jayco at this point in the race.
Yeah, just look like that. TDB now free of a little bit of dirty air, is really closing in. Eduk's really struggling for pace. You would imagine he'd be one of the first to come in. Dots behind TDB, now is back in the clutches of Yorno once again. Yorno trying to make up for that mistake a few laps ago. Miami still under masses of pressure at the moment from Bree. Bree must be gutted after one of his best qualifying positions of the season to have that poor first lap, but he's still right in the thick of it at the moment. Definitely a lot faster than Miami at this point. And you have to say Peter Wirchway and probably Major Falcon and Luke, B. Morgan and Tejonis at this point as well, all a little bit held up behind this queue, forming behind the Red Bull driver of Miami. In 6th place, Yorno's going for a move at Eduk at the Casio Triangle, round the outside of the first part. There's a little bit of wheel banging, but he gets the move done before he gets out of the corner. He's going to continue on though, and this might give DRS to Eduk. Actually, I think they both have the DRS because of it. So Yorno gets the move done coming into the Casio Triangle, and Eduk doesn't have any ERS to re-attack with. Great opportunistic move from Yorno when he gets back up into 4th place.
XL Bree just gets through on Miami now for P6. That's really crucial for Bree. He was getting held up behind Miami, and now he has the chance to close up to the back of the top 5. And J. Cole's really close to the back of Caesar, and we might see an undercut attempt from J. Cole here this lap.
I wonder if we're going to see the TDB or Yorno come in first, if I'm honest, because TDB is already caught back into DRS ranges. Oh, Miami's gone off the road. Miami's spun through Dunlop, I think he has. Red Bull driver spun through Dunlop. Has he picked up any damage on that front wing? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think he has. No, he's got away with no damage, but another spin at Dunlop, it will be very common in this race, and it has happened, unfortunately, for Miami. So drops from 7th place down to 13th. That promotes Peter now up into 7th. White 8th. Major Falcon 9th, and now Luke's into the top 10. B. Morgan's 11th, and Shadonis back into the point scoring places. So big mistake there for Miami, drops to 13th, and that just goes to show that when the tyres go off, they really go off, and you lose a whole lot of grip.
Yeah, it might be a good time to put from the soft tyres onto the hards and try and get an undercut on a couple of cars ahead. They're all in the train, so an undercut attempt is could really benefit you around this track. And it's going to be interesting to see if we can see any of the top runners going into the pits. I think Caesar is going into the pits. J. Cole stays out, and TDB and Yorno. Everyone is staying out except Major Falcon, who comes in as well behind Caesar. And interesting strategy call from Caesar. I think he recognized that J. Cole was faster than him throughout the last lap, and probably trying to cover him off by undercutting him this lap.
Yeah, doesn't want to get undercut from Jacob behind, but I mean, fair enough. To Caesar, who had older, softer compound tyres, had more ERS than pretty much everyone behind him, and wasn't really. He obviously. Jacob was within DRS range, but he wasn't really under threat. So Caesar, a good first stint for someone on an older set of tyres. Comes out in 8 seconds worth of clean air, so he should be fine if he won't get held up behind anyone unless anyone makes a mistake. Major Falcon, though, the one to look out for, comes into the pits for a set of hard compound tyres then. He was running in 9th place before he came into the pit lane, so look out for him. Where does he come out relative to the drivers around him when they come into the pit lane? YHYY and Peter were the ones directly in front of him, so we'll wait and see if he can jump them. How fast are these hard compound tyres? That's going to be the crucial part of this race now. And does this allow Caesar enough time to make a gap back to J. Cole? And at the moment, you have to say that TDB looks faster than J. Cole at this point.
TDB looks extremely fast on the soft tire, but he's using a lot of ERS, though, has to be said, to close up to the back of J. Cole. So he has to say that throughout the next couple of laps, probably make a move, because that less than 10% is obviously not advisable to go for a move on a car ahead. Probably have to save a little bit of ERS and try again later on in the race, but he has having incredible pace, and I think J. Cole is not going into the pits. Everyone's staying out. Really interesting. E-Ducks into the pits. Wow. Peter's into the pits. Ooh. And Luke as well. And they're all picking up speeding time penalties, unfortunately. E-Duck and Peter picking up a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
That's very, very common here because it's a downhill braking zone for the pit lane. E-Duck's put the mediums on. That's very early for a stop to the medium tyres. That's 19 laps he's got to do on the mediums. Surely that's impossible for E-Duck.
It could be impossible, but if he has a great if he can save the tyres, then it's a great strategy. And yeah, he's gonna be very vulnerable to the hard runners come the end of the race.
Yeah, Major Falcon actually didn't pull off the undercut. He nearly got overcut by Luke. Luke comes out directly behind him there, and Peter's still ahead of him. So the undercut did not work for Major Falcon, unfortunately. So he stays down behind Peter, but he might be able to jump YHYY when he comes into the pit lane. He stayed out a couple of laps longer, and this could put Luke ahead of YHYY as well. So Luke actually starting on those soft compound tyres at the moment seems to be working for him, because the medium runners, B Morgan, still hasn't made any progress since the start. He's just been stuck behind YHYY, and actually, looking at him on track, Jonas is actually faster than him. So that alternate strategy that we thought was so powerful at the moment just doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, really surprising to see. I expected
TDB.
Probably.
TDB going for a move down the inside of Casio Triangle. Sorry to cut in there. We'll go back to it in a second. But yeah, TDB look for a move coming out at 130R now. Do they dive into the pit lane? I think they do. No, they don't. They're still going out. Giorno's the one into the pit lane then, so he's in. We imagine he'll probably put the hards on. He might put the mediums on, though, from this point in the race. Bree stays out. YHYY stays out as well. Giorno pits for a set of medium tyres, so they are going for the soft-medium strategy then here. So I'll have to wait and see if this one pans out for them. But I personally don't think they can get those mediums to the end.
It's going to be a stretch. It's going to be really. It's going to be a stretch to get these tyres to the end. But we've seen, of course, with Giorno throughout these races that he has incredible time and he can keep the tyres alive. And he's lost him 3 seconds behind Caesar, so Caesar undercut him by a second and a half, I believe, in two laps. So yeah, not too bad for Yono. So you can definitely close up to the back of him, and this is a crucial lap for Yono to probably undercut TDB and J. Cole ahead.
Yeah, Yono actually nearly got re-caught by E-Duck, so E-Duck had a great outlap on his medium tyres, but I'm wondering whether he's pushing a little bit too hard, taking a bit of life out of them. Peter still holds the place ahead of Major Falcon, and Luke is still just behind as well. Miami pitted for a set of mediums. He comes out in 17th, trying to close back in on this queue of cars that he was at the head of before that little spin through the Dunlop corner. Now, what do the leaders do this time around? You'd imagine they've got to come in now that Yono's come in. You've got to imagine they'll come in now so that they don't get undercut, especially with fresh medium tyres now for Yono. He will have quite a big pace advantage. He's already taken a second out of Caesar on this lap. He's so fast. I don't know if Caesar's made a mistake, but Yono's flying on this outlap. So wait and see whether J. Cole and TDB come into the pit lane, and I believe they do. Yeah, J. Cole's in, TDB's in as well. Make sure they don't speed into the pit lane. TDB runs into the back of J. Cole in the pit lane entry, but gets away with it. Bree and YHYY into the pits, and to Jonas as well. So all of our soft runners now in. B Morgan takes over the lead of the race. Now, where do J. Cole and TDB come out relative to Caesar? That's crucial in this race. Did Caesar pull off the undercut? Was he able to keep the race lead? Was there an overcut attempt from J. Cole? Did it work coming out of the pit lane now? There goes Caesar past our screen, and here comes Yorno. Yorno might jump the pair of them here. Yorno down the pit straight. He's already ahead of the pair of them. So Yorno 1 lap earlier. Look at the time he gained past TDB and J. Cole in a lap.
That is a very crucial undercut from Yorno, and now he has the track position over his championship rival and the charging Williams behind. So that is really crucial for him, and now he has basically the first opportunity to overtake Caesar once he catches up to him, and that is crucial for this race. Yeah,
really, really crucial for this race, so that Yorno now is first in line to have a go at Caesar on those hard compound tyres, like you say, but we have to wait and see how these medium tyres perform. It's a great opening lap out of the pit lane for Yorno, but we've already seen from the other medium runners that they just don't have a lot of pace here. B Morgan got stuck in 11th place and couldn't move. Chill just got stuck at the back of the field in 14th and couldn't close in on the soft runners, so not to say that the medium tyres are bad, it just doesn't seem they have that much of a pace advantage over the softs, which you would expect they would do after about 5 or 6 laps at this track. B Morgan then leads leads the race 2.6 seconds ahead of Chill, and considering all the battling that Chill went through in those early laps, the fact that he's only 2.6 seconds behind B Morgan just goes to show that B Morgan seems to be struggling now.
Yeah, that's really surprising to see, because B Morgan basically wasn't in any trouble at all during that those first 10 laps, and Chill still being 2.4 behind him is really good pace from Chill, to be honest, and he still has a chance to get a decent result. JSD as well, and also go behind them, really close behind these medium runners, and Jonas has an incredibly fast lap at 29.3 in this medium ties, and Jaco doesn't have DRS behind. Jaco's using a lot of DRS to try and close back up to the back of Jorno, and now might be the time that Jorno tries to catch up to the back of Caesar and probably make a move next lap or the lap after that, and it's going to be crucial for him to not lose as much, to lose as least amount of time as possible to the back of Jaco and get a little bit of a buffer to him.
Yeah, he really wants to get them as quickly as possible, put a car between the Tim and his championship rival. I will say as well for B Morgan, obviously struggling on these medium tyres, but it does bode well for the end of the race that the drivers in front were able to get the soft tyres about 10 laps into this race. So B Morgan really needs to go only about 5 or so laps longer on these medium tyres, and if he pits and put the softs on, the softs seem to have pretty decent pace, so he could come flying through the field at the end of this one. We'll have to wait and see. Another thing as well, just mentioning, we were mentioning Old School in that queue of cars as well. Old School obviously crashed in qualifying. He's not made any progress. I was expecting him maybe to get ahead of the fellow medium runners like Chill and JSD, because they both really struggled in qualifying. But it just seems that unfortunately Old School, just like Chill and JSD, just don't really seem to have the rhythm around this track. He started as the last place driver on the medium tyres. He's only been able to pass Break FM, and other than that, he's just kind of been stuck in a net P16.
Anything can happen though. Late CTO could bring him up to P4 essentially, so it's going to be really, really interesting. And Jonas caught up to the back of Caesar, and Jaco crucially got DRS that lap onto the back of Jonas, so he can stick with him for these next couple of laps while Jonas tries to overtake Caesar during these next few laps. But Caesar on those hard tires is going to be very vulnerable to the back of to Jonas behind.
Honestly, what would be good for Caesar's race is if he actually caught Break FM, because he could use DRS off the back of the Williams to help him defend. Meanwhile, further down, White came out the pit lane behind Peter, is now back ahead Peter. Medium tyres, so he's back up into 12th place. The hard tyres at the moment not yielding the grip that the mediums are, but you would imagine that will start to change as the race goes on. So Peter just needs to try and keep within DRS range really of White to keep this alive. Breeze pulled away from these guys quite heavily at this part of the race now. He's now 2.5 seconds clear of White on his medium tyres. The one person that's really going to struggle towards the end of this one is Edark. He's already on his 4th lap on this set of medium tyres, and he's still got over half a race distance to go. So first person that's really going to struggle on these mediums is definitely Edark, and we saw that he was the first person to struggle on the softs. So for me, it seems a little bit bizarre that Edark's gone for such an aggressive strategy. Yeah,
it's really bizarre. I think he put a lap 8 or 9, I'm not quite sure, but that's extremely early for the hard tires. He can make it to the end, but he really has the tires safe throughout his entire stint. He probably can't push at all during his stint in order to make it to the end of the race. But it's going to be very interesting to see if he can manage those tires to the end of the race. And Jorno really close to the back of Caesar on the overtake with the DRS and slipstream, not closing in enough, but now he's closing a lot to the back of Caesar. He tries to go around the outside, really close between the two.
Contact!
And Caesar half spun a little bit, but kept the car in control, and Jorno gets past. Really crucial for him. And now TDB even made a move on J. Cole. I completely missed that, but TDB got past J. Cole, and now J. Cole is in the net 4th position, and Jorno is in the net 1st.
Wow. So TDB got moved on J. Cole at the same time, so he's starting to work his way through. Jorno and Caesar, that was so close. I don't know how on earth Caesar held that. There was a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, as you would expect with someone trying to go around the outside of turn 1. It's just kind of the nature of the corner. I think Caesar just understeered into the side of Jorno's car and somehow got away with it. But crucial for Jorno that he got that move done immediately so that he doesn't get stuck in the dirty air of the AlphaTauri. And now Caesar's going to be under massive pressure from TDB, who looks equally as fast as Jorno at this point. You've got to say, worked his way through the field, started 6th in this race at a track that is notoriously difficult to overtake at. Passed Bree on the opening lap with Bree's poor start, but since then has just worked his way through cleanly through the rest of the field methodically now, and is going for a net P2 on the road. Has absolutely no ERS in his usage at all, so he's obviously used a lot of it to try and get past J. Cole, but already J. Cole 0.8 of a second back. J. Cole just doesn't quite seem to have the same confidence on the mediums as he did on the softs.
Yeah, it's really surprising to see, and he's looking like he's struggling the most on these medium tires, and TDB really close to the back of Yorno with low ERS. He's probably going to make the move now quite easily up the inside of turn 1. Really good move from him, but J. Cole's losing out massively this stage by not having ERS as well and losing track position to TDB and Yorno because of an undercut, and Caesar goes a little bit wide in turn 2. That will not help him, but Caesar's race might come back at the later stages in the race when the medium tires go off and his hard tires will still be in sort of somewhat decent condition.
Yeah, well, the first person in front of him that should hit that kind of range on those medium tyres will be Yorno. He's got the oldest set of medium tyres of all those that have pitted so far. So look out for how his pace continues on the race. The gap between Yorno and TDB, 1.1 seconds coming out in the second Degner. So keep an eye on that as well. Can TDB get within DRS range of Yorno? That's crucial for the end of this race. Does TDB have the pace to challenge Yorno for the race win on track? He's using as much ERS as he can to try and get within DRS range. He's not quite there just yet, and Yorno does have a bit more than him when he comes up to eventually need to defend. Break FN, meanwhile, has pitted and put the hard tyres on. So at the end of lap 14, start of lap 15, Break FN pitted and put the hard tyres on. That's a bizarre strategy call from Break FN as well. Down in 17th at the moment, 6.5 seconds off the back of Tejonis, who pitted early as well and put those medium tyres on. He's right on the back of the queue behind Luke, who's dropped off the back of Miami, unfortunately, after his pass on those medium tyres as well. Peter has been overtaken by Major Falcon as well in all that. So Major Falcon's worked his way forwards in that Red Bull up into 12th place on the road, which should be a net P8 when everyone else comes into the pit lane. So on debut at the moment, Major Falcon doing a sterling job.
He's doing a great job of keeping the car consistent, and I think Tejonis just spun to the Casio triangle trying to make a move on Luke ahead. And that's very unfortunate. Might bring out a safety car, but unfortunately, I think he just got away with it. Break effect nearly crashing into the back of him. But that's really unfortunate for Tejonis, and he's lost a lot of time to the back of Luke. And now with those medium tires, he's going to struggle to get any higher than probably P16 or 15 come the end of the race.
Meanwhile, Peter makes the move back on Major Falcon, so he's back up into 12th place on the road with a sweeping move around the outside of turn 1, very reminiscent of Yorno's move on Caesar at turn 1 a few laps ago. So he's trying to work his way back up towards YHYY. Bit of an update on the people in front. Bree came out of the pit lane quite a ways back behind Educk and has already caught him, so Bree's now flying in this race, and Bree's only 3 seconds behind J. Cole, so it's not out of the question yet that Bree can steal a podium place here off of one of the drivers in front of him.
Yeah, especially if one of the drivers ahead gets a time penalty, then he'll be in a great position come the end of the race. So it'll be very interesting to see how if he can get the move done on Educk on all the tires, because Educk's going to struggle come the end of the race. So it's going to be crucial for Bree to get ahead of Educk and get that track position and not lose a lot of time behind him. And Educk goes a little bit wide to the Castro triangle. Bree gets a brilliant exit off of the corner. It looks like it's going to be a clean move for Bree down the inside of turn 1, but Educk lets him go and doesn't use ERS, and Bree gets ahead crucially for him.
Meanwhile, J. Cole still stuck behind Caesar. He doesn't have the same confidence as Yorno and TDB on these medium tyres. He's stuck behind the AlphaTauri now, so he can't make the move stick. And now championship rival Yorno and TDB, who's been it's a shame that TDB didn't have this at the start of the firm championship contender as well, but he's now disappearing off into the distance too. So Jacob really back, and now TDB has a time penalty. Remember, Caesar has a time penalty from earlier on as well, so that will cost him. Yorno does not. So Jacob would capitalise on TDB at this point in the race, but obviously we've still got 11 laps to go in this one, so it's not out of the question that he could fall out of DRS range. And now Bree's only 2.5 seconds back, so now Jacob's got to get this move done before Bree catches him.
He has to make this move, and it's taken him a lot of time to get this move done, and he's still not past him. So he's losing a lot of time towards the back of TDB, and if he wants to get P2 and loses at least the amount of points to Yorno, then he needs to get past Caesar this lap. Otherwise, it's going to be too late probably to make an impact on this race.
Meanwhile, race leader B Morgan is into the pit lane. So is Chill, so is JSC, and you would imagine Old School into the pit lane as well. He is. So all of our medium runners who have not stopped yet into the pits. Old School unfortunately speeds in the pit lane, but we've seen that already quite a lot this evening. Yeah, Old School into the pit lane. They're all going to put the soft tyres on now. Where does B Morgan come out? That's crucial in this race. Was leading. He's going to be down behind YHYY. Where will he come out relative to Peter and Major Falcon? That's crucial in this one. He's going to come out of the pit lane now. There goes Peter. There goes Major Falcon, and he might be behind Miami as well, coming down towards turn 1. That's going to be very close, but Miami does get the move into turn 1. Miami into 10th place, and B Morgan out pretty much where he was before everyone else came into the pit lane. So he's not lost any time by staying out on an older set of medium tyres, which bodes well for those that put the mediums on at the start. And someone's gone off the road in front of them. I didn't quite see who that was. It might have been YHYY, and Peter round the outside of YHYY, the Dunlop curve. Yeah, it's definitely YHYY that's gone off the road, and now Major Falcon's through as well, and Major Falcon trying to move in the first Degner. That was all sorts of chaos. They somehow get away with it, but YHYY with a mistake now drops down to 9th place. He'll be under pressure from Miami and B Morgan behind him as well, and Chill has net gained on B Morgan as well. He's ahead of Luke and is now in 12th place. So actually, B Morgan and formed an overcut there. They were able to get more pace out of their old mediums than YHYY, Miami and Luke were able to get out of their new medium tyres.
And especially with those fresh soft tyres now, and he's looking like the fastest driver on track, and he needs to get these moves done to get a good position this race. He can definitely get P8 this race, and he's on the overtake on the back of Miami, and Miami doesn't use his overtake. He recognizes that B Morgan is on the fresh soft tyres and he'll go past him. Never mind, that's a ghost car. I thought Stumpy was going to go side by side with Major Falcon, but it's a ghost car, so it's all fine. But B Morgan looks really fast, and now might actually look up the inside or outside of YHYY in turn 1. Major Falcon goes defensive, and B Morgan on the overtake, not closing quick enough to the back of YHYY, and is going to have to stick behind for this lap of Major Falcon on the inside, and YHYY goes around the outside, really close between the two drivers, but YHYY makes a brilliant move around the outside of turn 1 on Major Falcon.
Brilliant stuff. That's a great move from YHYY to get back up another place after that mistake earlier on in the lap before. So he's back up into 8th. B Morgan trying to go round the outside of Major Falcon in the S section, down the inside for Dunlop. That's a crazy move if he can pull that off. Can he get the exit out the corner? He's on the overtake. He's going to have the outside line turn to the inside for the Degner. He's done it. What a move from B Morgan. Round the outside of the third part of the S's and gets it done. That was reminiscent of Chapelele's move in D1 last season. Brilliant stuff from up into 9th place, and now he's within DRS range already of YHYY and Peter in front, so 7th place isn't out of the cards yet just for B Morgan. 6 seconds up the road to Eduk in front, who should struggle on his mediums at the end, so it's not out of the question that B Morgan could work his way towards the top 5 in this race. Now in 9th place, can he get past YHYY and Peter quickly enough to make this count? Meanwhile, further back, Chill and JSD have already caught these guys as well, so they're flying along at the moment. Chill currently last person points, trying to get a move done on Miami. JSD closing in as well. Old School's on the back of Luke for 14th, so they're starting to work their way through nicely. Meanwhile, back at the front of the field, Yorno leads. TDB's within DRS range, but not close enough to attack. Caesar's still 3rd, and J. Cole still hasn't made the move.
And J. Cole's using ERS, even though he's not close enough to the back of Caesar to actually make the move, so he's just wasting his ERS right now behind Caesar. Instead of just saving up for 1 or 2 laps and then attack Caesar, he's just using it every single lap, trying to force a move, and it's just not working out for him. And B Morgan goes past Peter, and he is flying on those soft tires. He'll probably get past YHYY as well this come the end of this lap. And
ooh, Peter's picked up front wing damage, and Major Falcon, no, Miami so is going to do exactly the same move that B Morgan pulled off the lap before. Peter picked up front wing damage, someone, oh, big crash. That's Major Falcon. I think he tried to get out the way of running into the back of Peter and just spun into the inside wall, so he's out. What a shame. There was a collision penalty for Chill, so I wonder if it was Chill that ran into the back of Major Falcon coming out of the Dunlop. That's put the Red Bull man in the wall. What a shame. Was on for points on debut, and unfortunately out of the race. And it's another collision with Peter and gained 1 place. So Chill's got 2 5-second time penalties there for collisions with people. So Chill, obviously probably one of the instigators in that. It was Chill fast at the rear of the queue and Peter slow at the front of the queue. They all Constantine it up, and unfortunately Major Falcon, the man in the middle, that just got caught out by it.
That's really, really unfortunate. Yeah, he's driven an incredible race so far, and on those hard tires, he, of course, was going to struggle against the medium runners and the soft runners, but still drove an incredible race, and it's so unfortunate to see him out of this race. And now would be Morgan up to the back of YHYY. I think this will be an easy move, but I don't think he's close enough this lap, so it's gonna have to stick behind. But
Chill in Miami,
really
meanwhile.
Fast.
Chill slid on the curb there and slid into the side of Miami, and now Chill's hit the other Red Bull, and now Miami spun coming out the final corner. Chill was on the curb and just got on the power too early and slid into the side of Miami's car. Chill's going to continue on, but I think with a bit of front wing damage, Miami's got damage as well. This is going to allow Break FN to get down the inside of both of them coming towards turn 1. Will he get the move done on Chill? No, he sticks behind Chill into turn 1, so he stays in 14th, but two Red Bulls, both taken out on the same lap by the same driver, and Chill was having such a good race up to that point, was looking on to get inside the top 10 and have one of his best races of the season, and in a lap it's all fallen apart.
Very, very disappointing for him. And it's just, it could all just, you can rise and fall just like that in D3, and it's so unfortunate to see. And TDB is still so close to the back of Yorno, but Yorno, of course, with that ERS advantage, can easily stay ahead of him. And Major Falcon, unfortunately, just as Peter picks up the time penalty when he's a long way back behind Miami. It's just very unfortunate to see. But B Morgan still behind YYY, could have a look up the inside of the Casio Triangle, or maybe even 120R. He's on the overtake, gaining a lot of time on the Ferrari ahead. And is he going to try around the outside of 120R? He has a lot of closing speed, but he has to stick behind right now. Is going to try to go around the outside in the Casio Triangle. He breaks extremely late on the soft tires and gets to move down cleanly around the outside on YYY. Brilliant move from him.
That was really, really well timed for B Morgan, and he parked it on the apex so nicely that YHYY couldn't get the run through the corner, so he can't use the DRS to get back ahead of B Morgan down towards turn 1. So brilliant stuff from B Morgan, up to 7th place, 6.5 seconds though up the road to Eduk. That is a tall order for him to close that gap down. We'll have to wait and see how he does, and obviously Eduk's the man with the oldest medium tyres at the front of the field, so he'll be the first to start struggling, so we'll wait and see whether B Morgan can close that gap down. Meanwhile, all of that carnage has put JSD in 9th place all of a sudden, and Old School, you said it earlier on, anything can happen and Old School can gain places, was running in a net P14, is now 10th because of all the carnage that happened around him on those last few laps, and he's closing in on JSD, and they'll probably close in on YYY as well. So looking for good results for the pair of them. This will be good boost for JSD, who's really struggled in D3 so far this season. This will be one of his best races of the season so far, so let's see if he can continue on and close in on the Ferrari man in front. But we'll go back to the lead for this time then. TDB a bit closer, but again TDB with no ERS in attack. He's going to have to wait for a mistake from Yorno, which at the moment doesn't look likely, and these two have just driven off into the distance since they passed Caesar. Jayco's actually lost DRS range this season now, when he just can't keep up with the AlphaTauri driver anymore.
Very, very disappointing for him, and then I think he had the pace to overtake Caesar, but just his ERS held him back massively in that fight to get ahead, because I think Caesar managed his ERS quite well throughout his soft stint, which allowed him to have a lot of ERS for his hard stint, and with that ERS basically being able to defend against the speed runners and keep Jayco behind, and Jayco just using his ERS unnecessarily, basically, trying to desperately overtake Caesar Head.
Yeah, it's just not working out for Jayco, and once again, obviously touch wood at this point, we've still got 4.5 laps to go in this race, but again, we've seen this so many times this season that Yorno's very smart when it comes to strategy. He's done a lot of good strategy moves in previous races, obviously notably Italy a few rounds ago, when everyone pitted behind the virtual safety car, he decided to stay out and go a little bit longer on those tyres, because he knew that when pitting under that virtual safety car, he wouldn't have been able to take those tyres to the end, and it gave him a commanding race victory in the end because of it. So he's done this a few times this season, where he's either come back through the field after a poor start, or he's done very, very well on strategy, and at the moment is the reason why Yorno is ahead of Jayco in the championship, because you could say on average overall this season, Jayco's probably been a little bit faster than Yorno, but it just seems that Yorno's a little bit smarter in racecraft.
I think you can say that, especially with strategy. I think Yorno, he recognized that he could get the undercut done on both TDB and Jayco to get that track position, and you just did one lap early is a really crucial move for his race, and that probably will allow him to, let's touch wood, to win this race today around Suzuka.
Yeah, really, really, it could. Yeah, we said obviously in Italy that was a massive swing in the championship in Yorno's favour, and then we went into Singapore and it swung in Jayco's favour after a poor race for Yorno, and then come back to Japan and Yorno bounces back in style, and it could swing back towards him in this round as well. And we've only got 4 rounds to go after this, so this is a crucial time for Yorno to start outscoring Jayco again, and at the moment he's doing it by quite a convincing margin at this point. Jayco's still stuck behind Caesar. Caesar, unfortunately, this strategy just hasn't worked. You would expect that the hard tyres would start to outperform the medium tyres at this point in the race, but that time just hasn't come. So this soft hard strategy that we thought would be probably the best strategy to be on at the front of the field just hasn't worked.
Yeah, it really hasn't worked for him. Even though he has decent pace, I think these tyres just don't have the grip matched to match up with the medium tyres, and especially with the soft runners behind him, not basically doing 1 lap in qualifying compared to his 2 laps, plus an in lap as well. So he had a lot of tyre wear on the soft tyres, so I don't think he would have made it to lap 10 or 9 to go onto the medium tires, and he's done a brilliant job on these hard tires, nevertheless. But he's just not on the best strategy so far.
Yeah, it's just unfortunately not worked out for him. And again, Caesar's going to play the bridesmaids of the season so many times that Caesar's finished second. We counted 6 times out of 8 finishes this season. 6 of those occasions, Caesar has finished second on the road. So he's finished second so many times. Unfortunately, he's got a penalty, so that will put him behind J. Cole and Brie at this point in the race. So he'll drop down to 5th at this point because of that penalty, unless either J. Cole or Brie picks up a penalty themselves. So J. Cole will pick up a podium, but it could have been so much more for J. Cole, unfortunately, and it could have been so much more for Caesar as well. This strategy just didn't play into his hands, unfortunately. He wasn't able to hold Yorno or TDB back. They both made the move stick as soon as they got there, and they've just driven off into the distance because of it. A bit further down as well, Brie, after passing Eduk, has slightly closed in on J. Cole, but the threat that he was just kind of dissipated. Now he's running at the same pace as Caesar and J. Cole in front. He's not really closing in. He has dropped Eduk quite considerably. Eduk now 3 seconds back, so he's starting to struggle on his tyres, and B. Morgan has half the gap between himself and the Ferrari driver in the last couple laps. 2.5 laps to go, and with Eduk seemingly struggling, it's not out of the question just yet that B. Morgan could still come home with a 6th place, but it's going to be right on the final lap that he has to make the move stick.
I think Eduk has a 5-second time penalty for speeding the pit lane as well. I'm not quite sure, but that's at least what I remember from the first pit stops, and I think that is the case. So B. Morgan is going to get that 6th position if nothing, probably nothing is going to happen anyways, but he will get that 6th position, and it's be very crucial for him. And he had a decent race, but medium soft strategy with all those gaps, like there were a lot of gaps between P8 and P3, so it's for him to that basically allowed the guys ahead to stay ahead and not really get caught by B. Morgan. And TDB is still so close to the back of Yorna. It's really interesting to see. And Brie is having a great race, nevertheless, not picking up time penalties again, and just having a very clean race. He hasn't picked up a single warning this race.
Nice.
And yeah, he's driven incredibly well. And if he keeps driving like this, he'll get a brilliant P4 finish, and that will be his 2nd best finish of this season.
Yeah, that would be one of it. And I think, obviously, the finish he had before that, obviously, I think he's had a podium this season, if I remember correctly. And now, actually, podium could be on the cards, because J. Cole's just picked up a time penalty on the inside of this first Degner. So, just as we say that, just that the Brie could end up with a P4, he could end up with a podium here, because both drivers in front of him now have a time penalty, and they're close together on track, so they're going to start losing time if they start battling. So, all of a sudden, just as we say that, we've cursed J. Cole's race, and now Brie's in prime position to take the podium off of the pair of them.
That is commentator's curse at its finest, to be honest. And Brie, after that poor start, it looked like he's going to get that podium, nevertheless, even while he started P4. And what could have happened for his race if he didn't get overtaken a lot back during those first 3 laps? So I think he maybe could have even challenged TDB and Yorno ahead, because he's driven incredibly well, and of course with TDB getting that time penalty behind Yorno, could have even got 2nd place this race. So that's really interesting.
That is really interesting, and it is so easy in those situations as well for someone to lose their head if they have such a poor start like that, to lose 3 places going into turn 1, and it's a relatively short one here at Japan, so to lose that many places at the opening lap, it's quite crucial. As J. Cole's trying to go for a move on Caesar here through the S's, so Caesar's starting to struggle on his hard tyres. J. Cole's got a lot more pace, trying to go past him in the S section, but can't quite do it, so he's trying to gain at least a place in this race on Caesar so that he can hold on to 4th when the penalties apply. He's going to look for a move at the first Degner, but again, not close enough to the AlphaTauri in front to get a move stuck. Maybe he'll go for the exit, the 2nd Degner, and go for the hairpin, but Caesar nice and comfortable coming out of that corner, so he won't be able to get up the inside for the hairpin. Caesar does feign a little bit to the inside to defend the line anyway, but J. Cole not close enough to make a move stick there. B. Morgan, meanwhile, is now 6 tenths behind Eduk. Eduk, all of a sudden, has dropped in pace. Is now 5 seconds off the back, and B. Morgan is right on the back of him, so B. Morgan could get a move done towards the Casio Triangle on the final lap. We'll go back towards the leaders, though. They're now coming down towards 130R. Yorno, great strategy once again. It's won in races so many times this season, and again, Yorno with a brilliant strategy. Anyone watching that's going to be taking part in D2 and D5, take note. This strategy has been sublime from both of these drivers today, and Yorno with no penalties, a clean race, is going to come through the Casio Triangle to win yet again and extend his championship lead with only 4 rounds to go. Yorno wins champions in Japan ahead of TDB on the podium once again. Back on the podium after a poor round last time out. Caesar will finish third ahead of J. Cole in fourth, but Bree is going to jump the pair of them on penalties. And Bree, what a drive from him. By far, I would say, his best drive of the season. He finishes on the podium in third place. J. Cole drops to fifth, Caesar fourth. B. Morgan gets sixth on penalties in the end. Didn't pass him Edok on track, unfortunately. White seventh ahead of JSD, one of his best results of the season in the Mercedes in eighth place. Edok drops to ninth after that 5-second time penalty, and Luke rounds off top 10 in the second Mercedes, the only other person to finish the race inside the top 10 doing that soft hard strategy. Old School missed out on 10th place by 1,000th of a second. I've never seen anything so close before. That is incredible.
That's the closest I've ever seen a gap at the end of the race. That is incredibly close, and Old School will probably be fuming to not get that extra point for this race, because that is so close, and that is so unfortunate for him. But Yorno with a race win, and Jaco finishing fifth in a very crucial race. Once again, we've been saying this 3 rounds in a row, crucial races for the championship, and this in Monza was a crucial race for Yorno to get a big gap to the back of Jaco, and then Singapore, Jaco bounced back, gaining a lot of points on Yorno, and now Yorno just gaining a lot of points again on Jaco. So
yeah,
probably next race in USA we can see Jaco closing in again, and then Mexico will see Yorno extending the gap. It's just incredibly close, this championship battle.
It really has. They've been dead level in pace and racecraft all season long, but so far Yorno's just had the better edge in terms of race strategy and had a better start to the season as well. J. Cole's start to the season at the moment has cost him. Yorno came out of the blocks flying. J. Cole took maybe a few rounds to get up to speed, but once he got up to speed, he's arguably one of the fastest, if not the fastest driver in the field. But that was a great race from Yorno then. Wins once again this season. I want to just check and see how many races he's actually won this season. I think it must be at least 4 by this point in the championship. I'm just going to double check actually. Obviously won the first round of the season. That is his 4th win of the season then. So that goes along with his win in Italy, Austria and Australia as well. So 4 wins this season so far. By far the best performer obviously in the lead of the championship as well. And after a race like that we head into USA and Mexico, which is 2 tracks in style are kind of similar to Japan in the corners that they have. So you would imagine that Yorno's going to take the pace that he had here into USA and Mexico and be quite successful.
Yeah, especially both tracks, like Suzuka, have a lot of high-speed corners and basically S-curves throughout the lap. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see. And yeah, Jaco has to bounce back now. Yorno increasing the gap by a lot, and he now has over a race distance between himself and Jaco. So it's going to be very difficult for Jaco for these next 4 races to make up those points.
Yeah, Jaco's lost a few points to Caesar, but he won't be too worried about Caesar at this point anyway. It's only a couple points he's lost. TDB, after that 2nd place finish, will jump ahead of B. Morgan and Old School in the standings, I believe. So that will put him up to 4th and close in on Caesar for 3rd in the standings. So that's a battle to look out for as well. And obviously Bree will jump, I think, ahead of both. Well, he'll jump ahead of at least Eduk in the standings. He'll get a lot closer to Watch by Y and P's as well, but he would have jumped Eduk in the point standing. So a lot of people gaining a lot of points in that round. But before we finish off the stream today, Dylan, and before you get ready for the D2 race, who is your driver of the day today?
It's a really difficult call. You can give it to Yorno for perfecting the strategy, making a beautiful undercut on TDB and Jaco. You could give it to Caesar for driving extremely well on those hard tires and with a compromised strategy. You could as well give it to Bree for having a poor start and then bouncing back to still pick up the podium. To be honest, I can't choose. What about you?
I'm in the same boat as you. I will say though, just because we've seen it so many times this season from Yorno, I kind of come to expect a performance like this from him now. So I'm gonna have to give drive of the day today to Bree. That for me, in terms of pace, is by far his best race of the season so far. Massively competitive, and like you say, where he would have been without that poor first lap, we do not know. Obviously, his only other podium of the season was at Canada, and it's fair to say Canada was a little bit of a crazy race that one was. So, I mean, for me, Bree takes my driver of the day.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, completely deserving, of course. Anyone like Yorno, Bree, TDB, they could all have gotten it. And I think if TDB had ERS, he could have made a move on Yorno, and interesting to see if he can maybe get that 3 second gap. But unfortunately, with just that low of ERS, he couldn't make a move on him ahead. But a lot of fast and great performances today. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what USA is going to bring to us. Usually a track where you can have almost a lap long battle, except the first sector. But still, it's going to be so interesting to see how the championship's going to pan out that race.
Yeah, and a lot of races I've commentated at the past at the Circuit of Americas have been pretty crazy because obviously the track is actually very, very difficult to master. So I have to wait and see how that one pans out. But that is where we're going to end today's stream, guys. Thank you very much for tuning into the stream, for commenting on the stream as well. Thank you to all the drivers for taking part in Division 3. I'm going to say it now, and people will probably fight me in the comments or send me messages after this, but D3 by far for me has been the best division this season. It's been such a good season to watch. So I have to wait and see what kind of response I get for that. But anyway, thank you to everyone, like I said. Thank you to Dylan again for joining me in the commentary box. Always a pleasure to commentate alongside you. And we will see you again this time next week for round 15 of the championship at the Circuit of the Americas. But again, from myself and Dylan, it is thank you very much and goodbye.